What's your favorite football team?
Rams.
That's right. Say, go Rams.
Go Rams.
High five, dude. Go Rams.
Go Rams.
Let's go Rams. Let's go Rams. Let's go Rams.
My team is Jesse. Go Rams.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to LA Rams Central, episode 25. This is my Tyke, who you got a formal introduction to earlier as he was playing. Couple things we're going to talk about. Show's going to be the same old as usual. We're going to talk about the games last week. We're going to talk about the games coming up this week. And we're going to talk about the Ram game. Back from LA.
Yeah.
Saw the Rams play at home in the Coliseum. I'll be having video later in the week. Got a lot of new stuff. That pennant. That over there. Where is it? I can't. There it is. Right there. I got a bunch of other new stuff too that's up over here. So pretty excited. New Jersey. Got Gurley. Somebody was complaining about Folk. You don't have to worry about Folk anymore. I got Gurley. We're good. We're all up to date now. So, yeah, we'll start with the Ram game against Detroit. I will talk a little bit about that game. So let me just start by saying the Rams-Bills game. That's the one that I want to really start with, because the Buffalo game, as frustrating as it was from a coaching standpoint, I felt like the game itself, there was a lot of positives to pull away from it. The first thing that I want to make sure everybody understands is we are still 3-2. We are still in great position with Detroit next week on the road, New York in London, a bye week, and then a very bad Carolina team. So there is a very good chance we can be 7-2 going into what I'm calling the brutal stretch run of New Orleans, New England on the road, and Atlanta back at home. It's not going to be easy, but we certainly have the table set for us to go 7-2. Obviously, that's if we turn around and do what we're supposed to do these next few weeks. So I'll talk about the Detroit game coming up. But the Bills game wasn't one of your typical losing to a team you're not supposed to lose to. Buffalo was an improving football team. And maybe they're surging, and maybe they are right now that they're getting healthy. They're going to, all those people that said they were going to be a good football team this year, they called it. I'm not going to sit here and trash the Rams, because we know Case Keenum sucks. We know Jeff Fisher doesn't know how to coach. And those two factors came to a head. And, when you're on a 3-game winning streak, your weaknesses are going to be exposed, guys. They are. And those are our crucial weaknesses. We have a quarterback in the wings, ready to pop, ready to explode. It's just now a matter of when he gets on the field, if he gets on the field under Jeff Fisher. So, there was some of those aspects that was disappointing. But look, we scored the first touchdown in Los Angeles since December 24th, 1994. That was great. We also scored the first touchdown in the LA Coliseum for the first time since December 16th, 1979. So I was ecstatic to be there for a part of history. Obviously, I would have loved the Rams to win. But Buffalo was a surging team. They were good. I told you I had concerns about Tyrod and Shady McCoy, and both of those problems reared their ugly head in this game. And we were depleted. Brockers was out. Quinn was out. Lamarcus Joyner did a nice job of coming in and spelling for Tremaine Johnson, who got hurt. So that was tough. But all in all, we walked out of there injury-free, with the we're going to get healthier. We lose Tremaine. That's going to be a tough loss. But Gurley's getting better. The O-line's getting better. The defense solidified itself in the second half despite all the injuries. We look like we're a surging team, and with 3 very winnable games and a bye week thrown in between, we could be a very dangerous 7-2 football team down the stretch. It's just going to take time. So I don't want everyone to panic, and I don't want everyone to freak out over a 30-19 loss to Buffalo. You don't like losing at home, and you don't like losing at home to Buffalo, a team that you feel like you could beat. But You are 3-2, and you got some winnable games coming down the stretch. So that's my take on the first week, on that first part. Now, that being said, there's a few things that I want you guys to think about with this Bills game. Kenny Britt is starting to establish himself as a respectable target. Saw some good things from him. Tavon started to heat up a little bit against Buffalo. Maybe he's finally going to trend in the right direction, because it is a good defense that he did some things against. But all in all, I think when we look at this game, we need to take it for what it was. We had the worst quarterback in the National Football League, and I'm convinced, guys, that there are 94 to 95 quarterbacks out there right now better than Case Keenum. And I'm including the two guys on our roster, and Jared Goff and Sean Minion. So it is what it is. We're stuck with, what I call the iPad stare, because every time he comes off the field after 3 and out, he's going, okay, got it. What he fails to realize is all the iPad is telling him is that he sucks. Why didn't you hit the wide open wide receiver on the curl route? The other thing that killed us in that game, guys, is you cannot throw the same pattern multiple times. The pick 6 happened when we threw the out route for the 11th time in the game. The 11th time it was a pick 6. You can't do that and expect to win. We've got to be better. We've got to have more plays. These are all things you can learn from moving forward, and you're going up against a weaker defense. You're going up against a weaker offense. You have an opportunity to do some good things with the next 3 weeks and build that momentum back up and be, 6-2. I said 7-2, 6-2. Now, New Orleans is a winnable game too, and we'll get into that when the time comes. So, again, guys, all I'm trying to tell you guys right now is, for those of you that are upset, that are fuming mad, I'm not. There's a lot of things I took from this game. There's a lot of positives I took from this game. The defense is starting to perform without key players, which we're going to need to do down the stretch. LaMarcus Joyner got crucial time in there against a football team that I think is infinitely better than the one he's going to see this week. And he's going to need that getting ready for Odell Beckham and the Giants in a few weeks if Tremaine's out for any length of time. You take that, and then you got to couple the fact that our line looks better, Gurley's starting to heat up, Britt's starting to heat up, Tavon's starting to heat up. You need those elements on offense to start to heat up, and Brian Quick's already been out of his mind. So you've got that slot receiver to do some damage when needed down the stretch. And defensively, we are playing against an opponent the next 3 weeks. Well, depending on whether or not Cam is there or not, certainly the next 2 weeks, against a guy that's a stationary target. And we'll talk about that when we talk about the Detroit Lions and Ram game. So, anyway, that's a wrap for the first segment. We'll jump into the second segment coming up next. All right, so the second segment, we're going to talk about the games last week, and then we're going to talk about the games this week, and then I'm going to wrap it up with the Rams-Detroit Lion game at the end of the show, as usual. So, the Thursday night game, Arizona against the San Francisco 49ers, unfolded exactly the way I thought. I thought that the 49ers would lose. I thought that the Cardinals were a better team, even though they didn't have Carson Palmer. So that was a big win. The game that I was really pleased about was the Redskin-Raven game. I talked about all week long in our show that the Ravens and Redskins game, this was a game prime for the Redskins to win. The Ravens haven't proven they can beat a good football team, and it came into fruition again. The Redskins went into Baltimore and beat the Ravens in a must-win game, I feel, for them. And for Baltimore, it was a confidence buster because, once again, now they've got that stigma. They haven't been able to beat a winning team, so we'll see how this unfolds. New England against Cleveland went exactly the way everyone expected. Tom Brady lit up the scoreboard. The Cleveland Browns, I said they could sneak up on New England. This wasn't going to happen that day, and the Patriots proved it. But again, I did pick New England, and New England did win. Philadelphia against Detroit, I didn't see this one coming, even though it was a 1-point victory. The Lions have had 2 very impressive wins, but they've had 4 very bad losses, and this was one of those cases. I felt like the Eagles played well enough to win, but 2 turnovers by Wentz cost their football team. So the Detroit Lions get the victory. and they move forward with an impressive win as they continue down the pike. And that was important for the Lions. But for the Eagles, I think it was kind of a reality buster, bringing them back to reality, going, okay, we have to work hard to win. And I think it's going to bode well for them in the future. The Bears-Colts, I picked Detroit, Indy, and I wasn't disappointed. Indy's just a better football team. The Bears are horrendous, and I don't see the Bears getting any better anytime soon. Tennessee-Miami, this was an upset pick for me. I picked Tennessee. I was right. I felt like the way DeMarco Murray, my comeback player of the year, and yes, guys, I'm telling you, he's comeback player of the year. If you are in Tennessee, you can thank your lucky stars that your organization made not only the right move, but the best move it's made since drafting Eddie George. I love DeMarco Murray. I loved him in Dallas. I was disappointed when he went to Philly because I knew they weren't going to use him properly, and I love the way he fits in a Mike Mularkey offense there in Tennessee. Big signing, and he came up big against Miami, as did a lot of the Tennessee Titan defensive players. So big win for them. Minnesota, I don't get it. I was dead wrong on this one again. I'll fully admit it. I know that defense is great. At this point, there's no arguing it. You don't have two guards. You're missing now your tackle. You don't have your running back, and you don't have a quarterback. You're 5-0. Blows my mind. But, again, I give credit where credit's due. Minnesota doesn't have to impress me. They just have to keep winning. And that's all they're doing. So, tip your hat to the Vikings. They killed it. Pittsburgh against the Jets, we knew that was going to be a whitewash, and that's exactly what it was. How about those Atlanta Falcons? They beat Denver in Denver. If you're not a fan of Matt Ryan now, boys, and by the way, a little fun fact here on Matt Ryan. Do you know which quarterback coming out of the draft this year they compared to Matt Ryan? Jared Goff of the LA Rams. Now we just need the kid to get a shot. But man, Matty Ice is playing lights out football. And Julio Jones is a beast. But that Falcons football team is just getting better and better each week. So impressed with the way they're playing. And they're only going to get better. I don't want to hear about the collapse last year. That was last year, different circumstances, different situation. They have confidence because they've beaten two very good football teams in consecutive weeks. Cincinnati at Dallas it turned out to be a better game. I was worried there. It was 28-0 again, and it turned out to be a humiliation, and that was embarrassing. So I'm not going to pick a game this week. That's what I'm going to definitely watch. I don't know if there is one. But this one turned out to be better, but the Bengals just ran out of time, and they didn't show up in the first half. The San Diego Chargers against the Oakland Raiders, that game was just wild and woolly, as a Charger game always is. I mean, anytime you have the two teams that participate in the Holy Roller game, surely you're going to have something bizarre happen. So how about the fumbled snap? I don't know what you want to call this one. Shot right through. They were unable to get the ball down. Just crazy game. Raiders escape Oakland with a victory, 34-31. Again, I call that game. I believe I picked Cincinnati against Dallas, and I definitely did not pick the Atlanta Falcons. So I ended up going 9-5 this week, which I was pretty pleased with overall. I didn't pick this one either. The Giants against the Packers, I felt like this was an even match football game. I felt like it could go either way. It did turn out to be a good game, 23-16 Green Bay, but in the end, Green Bay had control most of the game. I think it was 29 at one point. The Packers won, and they deserve all the credit. They played a great football game. Carolina-Tampa Bay. I picked Tampa Bay, and I was right. I said 21-17. It turned out to be 17-14. Tampa Bay did win, though, and that was the team that I picked. So I felt like that game was really, I'm thinking Greg Olson's probably going, can Derek Anderson please be our quarterback every week? Like he was like the only guy that threw him the ball. He threw him the ball on every single play. It was insane. But fun game to watch. But considering the two teams that were playing. But it was a fun game to watch as we move forward. Let's talk about the games this week. Once again, guys, I am covering this before I am able to watch the game. I have Week 6, we're going to kick off Week 6. I'm going to skip the Ram game. I'll come back to it last in the third segment of the show, as I always do. Denver at San Diego Thursday night. I think Denver's going to be smarting, but guys, this is a game that could hurt Denver. I'm picking the Broncos to win, but San Diego, they've been snake bitten, so it's probably going to be an end of the game, bizarre situation to cost them. But look for the Bolts to be in it all the way through, and Denver finding a way to win at the end. But I do just think Denver's a better team. Buffalo at home against San Francisco. I know Kaepernick's getting the start. I'm not picking Buffalo because they beat the Rams. I'm not picking Buffalo because I can't stand Kaepernick. I'm picking Buffalo because Shady McCoy. You can't stop him, and no one on that 49er defense is going to have an answer for a healthy Sammy Watkins and a Shady McCoy. And I just think it's going to be Buffalo all day long in that one. I don't expect it to be a close game. I expect Buffalo to roll. Jacksonville is finally going to get another win. They play the Chicago Bears in Chicago. Right now, that city is Cub crazy, and it's going to stay Cub crazy because the Bears are terrible. They're almost an afterthought, and hockey season just started, so the Blackhawks aren't a thing yet. They'll wait till later. So I think they go into Chicago with a rather subdued crowd and finds a way to get the victory in kind of an easy fashion. I think Jacksonville wins that one by 14. Pittsburgh at Miami. I like this game a lot for Pittsburgh. It's another great matchup for the Steelers. They should roll. Miami's not any good, and Pittsburgh does what they always do to bad teams. Cincinnati at New England. If there's going to be rust, it's going to be here on Tom Brady. But they're too healthy, they're too solid, and I do think that the Bengals are not as good as they were last year. This is why I said they'd go 8-8, guys. I didn't have them making the playoffs this year. I think New England takes care of business at home against a Cincinnati Bengal team right now that is kind of reeling. Carolina at New Orleans. If Cam Newton plays, I'm picking Carolina. If Derek Anderson plays, New Orleans gets another victory. They're at home against a bad quarterback and a bad football team. They should win. They are a bad football team, but they are an explosive football team. So look for New Orleans to win if Cam Newton plays. If Cam Newton doesn't play, I'm sorry, scratch that. If Derek Anderson plays. If Cam Newton plays, I'm picking Carolina. They're just going to be too much on the ground for them to handle. Baltimore at New York. Guys, I got the Ravens winning this game. They go to New York. I think New York is I said they were bad in the beginning of the year. They're 2-3. They're not bad. They're better than I thought, but they're not as good as everyone said they would be. And I think Baltimore's proven they can beat teams that are bad to okay. They just can't beat the good teams. New York's 2-3. Baltimore's 3-2. It's in New York. I see the Ravens pulling the victory. Cleveland at Tennessee. DeMarco Murray and company are going to go nuts here. The Titans should roll Cleveland. The Browns will remain the only winless football team in the National Football League for 2016. And the Titans are going to start getting some momentum under their belt as they start to hit their conference play coming down the stretch. Philly at Washington is going to be a fun game to watch just because I think both these teams are kind of equal. Carson Wentz, to show you how talented he is right now where Kirk Cousins is. And I think he will eventually pass Kirk Cousins. But I think you have the same kind of dynamic. Philly has a better defense, and with no Josh Norman, I got to pick Philly in this one as much as it pains. I'm going to be rooting for the Redskins like a crazy hog. But in the end, I just don't think they can handle Philadelphia's defense at home. And they don't have the defense themselves because of the loss of Norman and some other key aspects of their defense going out. So I'm going to give Philly the victory, maybe in overtime by 3, but I'm going to give the Eagles the victory. Kansas City at Oakland is a game I'm really looking forward to watching. Rivalry, two great football teams. The history is here from 1960 on. These two teams do not like each other. It should be a Kansas City slugfest, but I think in the end, I think the Raiders will overtake the Chiefs because of the passing attack. I look for the Chiefs to lose to the Oakland Raiders in Oakland. Dallas at Green Bay. I think the Packers are just too tough. Dak Prescott's good, but this is the first really solid opponent outside of New York that he's going to see. And I think that Green Bay's probably going to pull this one out and take care of business with Dallas. So look for Green Bay to get the victory and move on record-wise there. Atlanta at Seattle. Guys, I think Atlanta's going to win. If Atlanta can beat Denver in Denver, they're going to smoke Seattle. The Seahawks aren't nearly as good of a football team offensively, and defensively, they are just as tough. And Matty Ice tore them up. He's going to tear up Seattle Watch for a Falcon victory. I'm thinking by 10, maybe even 11 points. Indy at Houston. Texans roll. Indy won't be in it. It's going to be like a 31-13, 31-17 kind of game for Houston. I look for that. New York at Arizona. Here's my upset pick of the week, guys. I'm picking Arizona, but it's going to be a low-scoring slugfest. I'm thinking 17-13. Bowles is returning back to his stomping grounds where he was the D coordinator, and the Jets need a win. They're going to play hard. We saw what Buffalo did when they needed a win. Carson's coming back from a concussion. You know, a lot of people think at 30-17, 38-14. I'm thinking 20-13, 17-13. It's going to be that kind of game. I do have Arizona winning because I do think they're just a superior football team. But this is going to be a tough one. The only way they score in the 30s is if they get special teams and defensive touchdowns. If they do that, they'll score in the 30s. But they're only going to get 20 points offensively, maybe even 17. It's just, there's just too much going on right now in Arizona with the Todd Bowles reunion. So I'm going to pick the Cardinals, and my score for the Monday night game is going to be Cardinals 17. I'll go 20. Cardinals 20, Jets 13. Third and final segment coming up, Rams and Lions. You don't want to miss it. All right, so I want to start with a few things here. First of all, with the Rams, Detroit Lions, all-time series between the two teams. The Rams are 43-40-1 against the Detroit Lions. They have a winning record. When they were in Cleveland, they played against the Lions 15 times. 1-5. 15. They were 7-8. When they went to LA, they beat the Lions nearly 2-1, or nearly, twice every 3 games. 2 out of 3 games. There was a moment there where they were kind of going at it in the 40s and 50s, including a playoff victory for the Lions that knocked the Rams out in 52. But the Rams in Detroit, or the Rams in LA against Detroit, went 32-28-1. In St. Louis, the Rams were 4-4. They were a 500 football team in the 8 games they played against the Lions in their time in St. Louis, and that includes a 35-0 whitewashing in 2001 on Monday night. But the 32-28-1 record between the Rams and Lions is really highlighted with victories over the Lions in the 80s. They dominated Detroit. They beat Detroit in 81. They beat Detroit in 83, 86, 87, and 88. And then they didn't play them again until 91. So they played them 5 times in the 80s, and they beat them all 5 times. So that was really a nice little stretch run for them. And the 70s, they were pretty dominant against Detroit as well. But this isn't the 70s. This isn't the 80s. It's 2016. Now, I remind everyone, this is a team we beat 21-14 last year. Okay? I believe that was a score. It was close enough anyway. The Rams don't have Tremaine Johnson, but the Lions don't have Calvin Johnson. That's the way I'm going to phrase this. Okay? I like LaMarcus Joyner a lot. And I like EJ Gaines. I've seen a lot of games, pun intended, in EJ. And I think EJ and LaMarcus make an interesting matchup because you've got a really good cover corner who plays great zone defense with good leaping ability in LaMarcus, and you've got a big physical corner in EJ who can also play good zone defense. If I'm the Rams, okay, and I'm coaching them, I have a 3-game approach. I have a 3-prong approach. I have a 3-prong approach. Step 1, on offense, pound the rock. Pound the rock and play action deep because they give up 4.9 yards rushing per game. So we need to get Todd Gurley not 100 yards rushing, not 150 yards rushing. We need to get him a 200-yard day. And this is the team you can do it with. So I run the rock all day long and play action deep. Defensively, zone blitz, because, again, we talked about this last week. He's a pocket quarterback. You blitz to a point because you know there's a point where Stafford's going to drop back and sit. Get to that point before he does and kill him. Just destroy him. Destroy the pocket and destroy the passing lanes. Behind it, you want to go zone. You do that, you have a good chance of controlling this game and blanking Detroit. Special teams-wise, go for broke. Set walls. Set reverses. This isn't a disciplined football team. You might sneak a punt return or a kick return in this game. These are the opportunities to do it. Guys, look, last week we were all upset sitting down. Look, I was way up there in 1L, right, in the upper deck. And I was just as disappointed as everybody else that we didn't fake a field goal from the 4-yard line in the fourth quarter, down 6 points. Yet we fake a punt on our 15-yard line on 4th and 7, and we fake it as a running play. We don't even fake pass it. We fake run it to the short side of the field and get stopped and go down 30-19. I get it. That wasn't the week to do it. Buffalo's a bit more disciplined, but this is the week to do some of those fake gadget plays that might gash them. So I'm not saying go for broke and treat the first half like you're, a football team that's, fighting for a top 3 pick in the draft. You're a playoff contender right now. What I'm saying is pick your spots well, because this week it's going to work. I really believe if the Rams run a fake this week, it's going to work for big yardage. If they run a fake or they do some kind of trickeration on special teams, it's the week to do it. You could score a touchdown with it. When I look at this game and I break it down defensively, I'm not afraid of the Lions. I look at this and I go, Theo Riddick isn't going to hurt us. He's not Shady McCoy. He's good, but he's not Shady McCoy. Stafford isn't going to hurt us with a big run on 4th and, think about that 3rd and 13 or 3rd and 9 run, whatever it was that he got 12 yards on. You're not going to get that from Stafford. He's going to throw it. So if we go zone behind it and allow our front four, who are hopefully healthy, I haven't heard much in the way of that. I hope at least Jonathan Quinn comes back. If we can get pressure with the front four and play zone behind it, it's going to be over. It's going to be OVER, over. We are such a better football team at every position but quarterback than the Detroit Lions. We need to utilize it. Guys, this is the week to go ape stick bananas. If you lose to Detroit, if we lose to the Lions, I'll be venting and going bonkers next week. Because this is not a football team you should lose to. Buffalo was a difficult opponent. They're hot, they're confident, and they have talent. And they have better talent than we had on the field, especially on defense with all those injuries. Look, I love Eugene Sims. I love Westbrook. We have depth on the D-line, but you cannot play a game against a team like that and not have Jonathan Quinn on the field or Brockers and think it's not going to hurt you. So we get hopefully some of those guys back, but even if we don't, Westbrook and Sims are so much better than what's on the other side of the ball for the Lions. So, again, I'm going to go ahead and say a score. I do this every week with the Rams. I think the Rams win this game 28-7, 28-3, maybe 28-10. If we have garbage points at the end, maybe a garbage touchdown because we're up 28-3. But, guys, I wouldn't be surprised if we score 28 or 35 points. We will get to 35 with a defensive or special teams touchdown. But I think Todd Gurley's going to score twice on the ground. I think Tavon is going to score through the air. And I think Kenny Britt is going to get one through the air as well. Maybe Kendricks. But we'll at least get 2 passing touchdowns and 2 rushing touchdowns. Maybe Gurley will get a 3rd one through the air, but to get us to 35. But I really think it's going to be a defensive or special teams touchdown that gets us to 35. But, guys, this is a winnable game. We should have no issues with Detroit in Detroit. So, breathe easy, relax. We're about to go 4-2. Then we got to get ready for not a short week, but a long flight to London for a home game, which somebody needs to explain to me why that just isn't a road game and give it to the Giants as a home game. You're not fooling anybody. It's farthest from Los Angeles as you could possibly get, and you're going to make it a home game. So annoying. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the show. Hope you enjoyed little Steve-O. He made an appearance. And that's it for the 25th episode of LA Rams Central, guys. I'll see you next week with definitely the 4-2 Los Angeles Rams. Go Rams!